Okay. Hello. Okay. Let's see what we can do about the camera situation. Let's see. Which one's lagging? Okay. Uh, okay. Cool. We're back. And this time I have some Mediterranean salad because my sister, like I said, had a baby shower today. It's gonna be a little boy. Not if I have anything to do with it. No, but, um, having a boy. Um, what do you call it? I don't know what the name is gonna be. But yeah. So they had this baby shower. It's all really exciting. My sister looks like my mom right now. It's kind of funny. No, but um, they got Mediterranean food, and I freaking love these salads, man. I made a Mediterranean chop salad last night. It was the bomb. Mmm. I feel like this is missing dressing though. Sorry. Mmm. And so now I'm grinding it into pud. No, yeah, so they got this Mediterranean salad and it's always good to have roughage, but I'm also like a big salad fan. Fresh lettuce any day of the week. You ever see that video of that dog eating the lettuce? It's me. The one where the dog is inside the lettuce eating the lettuce? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, sorry for keeping you here. Because, it's been about 10 minutes. Okay, only 6 minutes. That's not too bad. I know my salad excursion is so interesting. So interesting. Mm. Mm. I hated olives growing up, but I think it's because the first time I had an olive, it was on pizza, and honest olives on pizza are so mid. Atrociously mid. Like, and I'm saying this now as like someone who finds olives to be very palatable. When I was eating olives on pizza, I thought they were absolutely disgusting. But like, you get like a good like Kulamata olive. There's something about the saltiness. Once you understand like how to salt your own food and like how salt like changes the flavor of like a dish, I think you start to appreciate like capers and olives because they bring the salt to the dish, like salt and acidity, a little bit of flavor. Um, so in like a salad where it's just like a lot of lettuce and like onions and stuff, there's some olives in there on the cheese, and it's like, oh, it's to die for. But yeah, I didn't start finding olives palatable until I started working at Subway. Cause I'd work at Subway, right? I'd go to lunch. They wouldn't even give you a free sandwich. They just gave you like an employee discount, which is like, why? No. And so when people would ring themselves up, they would just like put on like whatever extras they wanted and like not charge. Of course, you weren't supposed to do that, so I didn't do that. But people would like sneak on like bacon or like double meat or whatever. And so Subway, Subway is have it your way, okay? On a given day of the week. So like when I was working there, they had gotten rid of the $5 foot long, right? But you could still get like a $5 sandwich, maybe $5 or $6 sandwich, right? Um, but it was like a daily special. So like depending on what day of the week it was, that's what you were eating for $5 because you were not getting paid enough at a tiny uh at a tiny um what is it, like wage discriminating how would you call that, like at this dinky little franchise that like intentionally hires less people so that they don't have to pay like the increased minimum wage to people. Like at the time, minimum wage was $10, but we were still making $9 um because like the franchise was like small enough or whatever, which was really dumb. Really fucking dumb because I know I know that the guy running it could use less money because it's like he has time. He could just get a job. Like, you know what he did? Like in his free fucking time, is he would sit at home and watch us on TV. He would watch us through security cameras. He's not. It's a franchise, right? So he just follows all the rules that like Subway corporate or Subway HQ sends him, right? He doesn't think about managing. He doesn't make decisions about the shop. Like we're not doing anything egregious, and all of it's caught on video. So if people are like taking inventory, like it's fine. Like you're not gonna be missing anything. Like it's Subway. Everything's perishable. Like it's gonna be gone in 2 days anyways. They check inventory so often that like I swear to you, nothing is gonna go missing that you're not gonna notice. And so like he watches people to micromanage them. Um, and so it's just like dumb that we're making like less than like the posted minimum wage just because this guy wants to like cut costs and like cut corners. It doesn't like things like that. They'll say it's like, oh, it's for small business owners or whatever. It's not, dude. It's for your own self-serving bullshit. You're a franchise. You're not a small business owner. What are you talking about? You don't run that business. Like, come on. It's like, oh, but it's managed through a company, and it's like, then how do you have time to watch us on fucking cameras all day? Tell me that you're not hiring managerial staff, and maybe I'll fucking believe you. But he totally is. Like, it's so dumb. Like one time, like the phone was ringing, and I was on break, and I remember the owner called in after I let the phone go or whatever. And like someone else picked up the phone, right? So like this guy's like, why didn't so and so he thinks I'm one of the female employees working there. Why didn't so and so pick up the phone? And I'm like, you said that? But like at the same time it's like bullshit. Because it's like I was literally on my lunch break. Like he doesn't even know what's happening. He doesn't even know what he's looking at. He's just like needling and like micromanaging. It's like fucking pay me $10 then. Anyway, we didn't have enough. So I would just order like the $5 deal. And I remember one time it was the tuna, right? And I saw a lot of workers ordering the tuna. First of all, I thought they pre-packaged the tuna salad like with the mayonnaise. Like I didn't realize we mixed it ourselves. So like I was willing to be like, okay, I can give the Subway tuna a chance. I've been snuffed by like enough of these like vending machine like pre-packaged tuna sandwiches to like kind of grow a distaste for them. But we actually mix the tuna here, and a lot of people order it, so maybe it's okay. And I remember I had it, and I was like, oh, the tuna's fine, but there's something missing. And it's because when I make tuna, I add Italian spices. So I add Italian spices, and I'm like, I don't know, something. It's still not quite right because you can add Italian spices, but I would specifically add thyme, and thyme has like, how would you even describe that? Like thyme tastes like way more like pungent than like a regular mix of like dried oregano and like whatever goes into like Italian spices, right? We had oregano. We specifically had oregano at the shop. So one time I was like making my sandwich and I'm like, you know what? I know it'll bring balance to this. So I started ordering tuna and olives. And that's how I grew a taste for olives, because it was just like it's tuna fish, mayo, and then nothing, right? But you throw olives on there and it's tuna fish, mayo, olives, and I'm like, that's the ticket. And then I got in a Mediterranean salad after I had falafel at a little city fair one time. I don't even know what to call it, but like they call it a farmer's market, right? I was at a farmer's market, and one of the booths there was this like Mediterranean place, and they were serving these things called falafels. And I was like, falafel, what's that? And they had a picture there, and I was like, oh, it's green on the inside. I like green stuff. Green stuff tastes good. And so, um, I ordered the falafel, and it's delicious. Falafel's amazing. But I remember I was like, damn, this is like a whole side of food that I've been missing out on. I was like maybe like 20 at the time, 20, 21, something like that. And so I discovered Mediterranean food like when I was about college age. And as they say. And when I was like 20, 21. And so I'm like, damn, I need more of this. Because like hummus too, like I had one bad experience with hummus as a kid, and I didn't want it anymore. But then I had hummus with the falafels, and I'm like, hummus is amazing. Pita bread's amazing. And so I'm like, I gotta go somewhere for this. Like this sounds good. And so one time we're like getting dinner or whatever, and I we drive by this place, and it's like a Mediterranean food place, and I'm like, oh my god, I bet they have falafel. And so I go in, they have falafel, so I get a falafel plate, and I remember they served it with like this salad. I wasn't sure what I was ordering, so they just gave me like a little bit of that rice mixed with like the noodles, some salad, some hummus, pita bread, falafels. It was very expensive. It's very expensive food, but it's so delicious. And I don't know. It's something you can make at home anyway. So you might as well try it. Like, anyways, so they give me this salad, right? It has olives in it. And I remember like, cause I'm used to black olives, right? Like black pitted sliced olives. That's what we had at Subway, right? So I had this olive, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on? Like, it was my first time having a Kalamata olive, and it was so like acidic and just like pungent, and it just like I felt like it could just like do anything with like any dish. Like I could have it with like any deli cut of meat, or like I could it like in a salad. Like it's amazing, you know. Like, and since then, it's just my life's been changed. Like I've just been into these olives. Anyways, um, revolution of values. Okay. Okay. So last time we were talking about engaged teaching. We're talking about drawing from self-actualization to teach as a liberatory act. Um, when you're engaging in education and you're someone who's constantly being put under by racism, sexism, classism, whatever it is, you got to find that thing that gives you freedom, because when you focus on that and when you apply yourself to that, it comes naturally. Okay, so it's important that we can uh, be taught as a liberatory act, and we want teachers to feel enabled that way, because we want people to feel enabled that way. We want this to have greater implications for the rest of society. We want people to feel like they can have a conversation with someone and be vulnerable, and expect other people to be vulnerable, and to give each other that sort of liberation, right? But that's a lot of work. So that's like multi-generational work. What you can do today is learn to be a teacher, make a difference uh, in the classroom or the workplace or whatever it is. So we're talking about teaching as a liberatory act, because it gets people more actively engaged in learning. It gets them to understand difficult concepts, things that come as like a synthesis of ideas, um, because you're allowing one to essentially apply apply their senses and their memory in lieu of like the learning process, as opposed to applying their memory in this sort of compartmentalized way, where this sort of strict mind body link um, becomes like a certain rigidity in teaching and learning and eventually everyday life. One sec, my dog. So it's important. What is it? Okay, so engaged teaching is very demanding. Um, she highlights how it's difficult for many teachers who feel it undermines their authority. And she also highlights that students may dwell on personal experiences to abuse their freedom in the classroom. What we're finding is that people's understanding of the world uh, through this compartmentalization paradigm and this tight mind body link um, makes it difficult for them to understand that they should self actualize in lieu of what they're doing at any given moment. Um, which makes it difficult for teachers who come to the classroom to teach students to impart any of that wisdom upon them. One of the things that they talk about is um, how some teachers in the 90s were complaining about how students wanted to treat it like an encounter group. They wanted to treat the classroom like an encounter group. That's what they were saying. Which is interesting, right? Because students are coming to the classroom to enrich themselves and grow. But they're finding that they're kind of hung up on these things and not sure how to relate it to the material. Yeah, I ask a lot of weird questions. And teachers are usually pretty good about that around here. I think that's definitely one of their strengths. Like, someone's telling me about we were talking about the kernel and the range in a linear algebra class last semester, and I'm like, I asked something that's obviously worded in a way that's outside of the applications of a math class and may reduce my understanding of concepts further on, but for the sake of my learning, I asked then, like, if we're generating these what was I saying? If we're talking about these things as spans, um are we talking about like a way to sort of trying to remember what kind of set we were making. We were like, I remember I asked something like, so are we like indexing like a surface like as like a set of like vectors or something like that? And he was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, there are a lot of teachers out there who won't even give me that. There's a lot of teachers out there who'll be like, no, actually, that is such a reductive concept. Indexing is a word that we use in computer science, not a mathematical classroom. Like, what the fuck? But like, you are, because the real work of math, behind the fucking scenes, is that you would be this great physicist who like fucking models the world through mathematical equations and things like that. The world doesn't give us math. It's not one to one. We observe the world and put our math on top of it. Okay, that's why if math came from directly from nature, we would already have a unified generalized theory of the universe, wouldn't we? Because it would be right there and like perfectly fucking observable, right? No, we invent the math and put it over nature, and it lines up well because people work hard on it. Okay, like, and it's certainly not perfect. Like, this sort of like intrinsic perfection that like people look for in these things makes it difficult for teaching to be a liberatory act for people, um, because it's difficult to see it as one, and at times it's difficult to pick up where other teachers have left off, um, or where parents have left off, or where the media has left off, where toys and video games and television leave off. Like, everyone's teaching, right? It's just it seems to be that all the teaching about life happens, in a select few places, and that's where the justice comes from, is when you understand the world around you and can come together to create these social contracts that ensure that everyone's accounted for. um and so, like, she finds it to be important. It just so happens that I find it to be important for very similar reasons. So I feel very comfortable talking about it, actually. So here, that's like chapter 1, roughly, in a nutshell, in a walnut shell. Um and so now we're going to be talking about chapter 2, a revolution of values. The promise of multicultural change. 2 summers ago, I attended my 20th high school reunion. It was a last minute decision. I had just finished a new book. Whenever I finish a work, I always feel lost, as though a steady anchor has been taken away. There is no sure ground under my feet. Between the time ending one project and beginning another, I always have a crisis of meaning. I begin to wonder what my life is all about and what I've been put on this earth to do. It is as though, immersed in a project, I lose all sense of myself and must then, when the work is done, rediscover who I am and where I'm going. When I heard she loves reading, um, when I heard that the reunion was happening, it seemed just the experience to bring myself back, to bring me back to myself, to help in the process of rediscovery.
Never having attended any of the past reunions, I did not know what to expect. I did not know that this would I did know that this one would be different. For the first time, we were about to have a racially integrated reunion. In past years, reunions have always been segregated. White folks had their reunion on their side of town, and black folks had a separate reunion. Just like that episode of Moral Oral. Um, none of us. God, that episode fucks with me. None of us. None of us was sure what an integrated reunion would be like. Uh, those periods in our adolescent lives of racial desegregation had been full of hostility, rage, conflict, and loss. We black kids had been angry that we had to leave our beloved all black high school, Crispus Attucks, and be bussed halfway across town to integrate white schools. We had to make the journey and thus bear the responsibility of making desegregation a reality. We had to give up the familiar and enter a world that seemed cold and strange. Not our world, not our school. We were certainly on the margin, no longer at the center, and it hurt. It was such an unhappy time. I still remember my rage that we had to awaken an hour early so that we could be bused to a school before the white students arrived. We were made to sit in the gymnasium and wait. It was believed that this practice would prevent outbreaks of conflict and hostility since it removed the possibility of social contact before classes began. Yet once again, the burden of this transition was placed on us. The white school was desegregated, but in the classroom, in the cafeteria, and in most social spaces, racial apartheid prevailed. Black and white students who considered ourselves Black and white students who considered ourselves progressive rebelled against the unspoken racial taboos meant to sustain white supremacy and racial apartheid, even in the face of desegregation. The white folks never seemed to understand that our parents were no more eager for us to socialize with them than they were to socialize with us. Those of us who wanted to make racial equality a reality in every area of our life were threats to the social order. We're proud of ourselves, proud of our willingness to transgress the rules, proud to be courageous. Part of a small integrated clique of smart kids. Really? Who considered ourselves artists. We believed we were destined to create outlaw culture where we would live as bohemians, forever free. We were certain of our radicalness. Days before the reunion, I was overwhelmed by memories and shocked to discover that our gestures of defiance had been nowhere near as daring as they had seemed at the time. Mostly, they were acts of resistance that did not truly challenge the status quo. Well, yeah, because that's what kids do. One of my best buddies. One of my best buddies. I can feel my chair getting wet. It feels better. One of my best buddies during the time was white and male. He had an old gray Volvo that I loved to ride in. Every now and then he would give me a ride home from school if I missed the bus, an action which angered and disturbed those who saw us. Friendship across racial lines was bad enough, but across gender, it was unheard of and dangerous. One day, we found out just how dangerous when grown white men in a car tried to run us off the road. Real shit. Ken's parents were religious. Their faith compelled them to live out a belief in racial justice. They were among the first white folk in our community to invite black folks to come to their house, to eat at their table, to worship together with them. As one of Ken's best buddies, I was welcome in their home. After hours of discussion and debate about possible dangers, My parents agreed that I could go there for a meal. It was my first time eating together. Oh, my mom married a white guy. I've gotten wind of it, but I think she had a very similar conversation with her family. Scary. It was my first time eating together with white people. I was 16 years old. I felt as though we were making history, that we were living the dream of democracy, creating a culture where equality, love, justice, and peace would shape America's destiny. After graduation, I lost touch with Ken, even though he always had a warm place in my memory. I thought of him when meeting and interacting with liberal white folk who believed that having a black friend meant they were not racist, who sincerely believed that they were doing us a favor by extending offers of friendly contact, for which they felt they should be rewarded. Yikes. I thought of him during years of watching white folks play at unlearning racism, but walking away when they encountered obstacles, rejection, conflict, pain. Our high school friendship had been forged, not because we were black and white, but because we shared a similar take on reality. Racial difference meant that we had to struggle to claim the integrity of that bonding. We had no illusions. Illusions. That's the key word. Illusions. We were there. We knew there would be obstacles, conflict, and pain. In white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, words we never used then, we knew we would have to pay a price for this friendship and that we'd need to possess the courage to stand up for our belief in democracy and racial justice and the transformative power of love. We valued the bond between us enough to meet the challenge. And I'm sure you talk shit on everyone else around you. To you, everyone's shallow or a freak or a poser. Why do you suddenly care what people think about you? Dude. Shut up and swallow is what they said. I was playing a song during the last stream at the very beginning, but I thought I'd pressed go live instead of record. So there's a 6-minute recording of that song playing on the intro screen. By the time I realized to hit start streaming, it had already played. The song is it's by the Brave Little Abacus, a band I'm sure everyone here has heard of. It's off of Just Got Back from the Discomfort, I'm Alright. And the name of the song is Bug Infested Floorboards and Please Just Leave This Place Now. And it went into orange, blue with stripes. I wanted to be selfishly how I wanted. One human read my pew tears. But yeah, like, it's a great album. They're a really good band. They finished after releasing one more single, and then the lead singer became a member of a Pearl Jam cover band, which is a little fun fact for you. You can't be emo forever, so eventually you get over it. Which is kind of what Bell Hooks is saying when she talks about, like, teaching community and teaching the transgress and all this stuff. You can't just unwind injustice and expect to have the world there for you, ready to build you up. This came from history. The injustice you felt came from history. So undoing justice is actually moving forward towards the unknown. In that way, you have to be able to build people back up, which is why teaching to transgress is shaping up to be such a powerful work in my mind. But people still, they grow up in this like way where we're taught to kind of like negatively enforce our rules, such an essential social function. You learn about society and its truths through social construction, and in doing so, rules form and accounts of rule following are demanded. That's like the essential like sort of moving force of what we seem to see as like this irrational action. Um, in a perfect society, people would create rules that reproduce the society, right? But we don't live in a perfect society. We live in a flawed society, where people can't necessarily be everywhere all at once and have to listen to imperfect accounts of personal experiences. And what that's amounted to, unfortunately, is this large scale division and centralization of power to like a few long standing economic forces, right? So to move beyond that, we still have to be able to make these rules because it's so intrinsic to how we function as humans. Nothing's gonna get done. We're gonna die out. Um, and so I, I see her qualify this entire account with like, I thought it was cool. And I just feel like I already know like how she's gonna pick at it, but I want to see. I want to see. Days before the reunion, remembering the sweetness of that friendship, I felt because she's not. She changed as a person. How are these two gonna connect if their entire relationship was built on these teenage feelings? Um, are they just gonna suddenly like become less humble and just go at it and just like talk shit? And what about growing sympathy? Like how does one navigate that? Um, Days before the reunion, remembering the sweetness of that friendship, I felt humbled by the knowledge of what we give up when we are young, believing that we will find something just as good or better someday, only to discover that not to be so. I wondered just how it could be that Ken and I had ever lost contact with one another. Along the way, I had not found white folks who understand the depth and complexity of racial injustice and who were as willing to practice the art of living a non racist life as folks were them. In my adult life, I've seen few white folks who are really willing to go to the distance to create a world of racial equality. White folks willing to take risks, to be courageous, to live against the grain. I went to the reunion hoping I would have a chance to see Ken face to face, to tell him how much I cherished all that we had shared, to tell him in words, which I never dared to say to any white person back then, simply that I loved him. Remembering this past, I'm almost struck by our passionate commitment to a vision of social transformation rooted in the fundamental belief in a radically democratic idea of freedom and justice for all. So, how'd you tell him you were going to be there? Our notions of social change were not fancy. There was no elaborate postmodern political theory shaping our actions. We're simply trying to change the way we went about our lives so that our values and habits of being would reflect our commitment to justice, to freedom. Our major concern then was ending racism. Today, I witnessed the rise in white supremacy, the growing social and economic apartheid that separates black and white, the haves and have nots, men and women. I have placed alongside the struggle to end racism a commitment to ending sexism and sexist oppression, to eradicating systems of class exploitation. You can't use the same jokes. Aware that we are living in a culture of domination, I ask myself now, as I did more than 20 years ago, what values and habits of being reflect my of being one more time aware that we are living in a culture of domination. I ask myself now, as I did more than 20 years ago, what values and habits of being reflect our commitment to freedom. In retrospect, I see that in the last 20 years, I've encountered many folks who say they are committed to freedom and justice for all, even though the way they live, the values and habits of being they institutionalize daily in public and private rituals help maintain the culture of domination, help create an unfree world. In the book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? Martin Luther King Jr. told the citizens of this nation with prophetic insight that we would be unable to go forward if we did not experience a true revolution of values. He assured us that The stability of the large world house, which is ours, will involve a revolution of values to accommodate the scientific and freedom revolutions engulfing the earth. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing oriented society to a person oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property insights and property rights are considered more importantly than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being. Oh, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. A civilization can flounder as readily in the face of moral and spiritual bankruptcy as it can through financial bankruptcy. Don't I know it? Don't I know it? Don't I know it? A little bit. Mostly. Somewhat. Have anything to share? Alright. Today, we live in the midst of that floundering. We live in chaos, uncertain about the possibility of building and sustaining community. The public figures who speak the most to us about a return to old-fashioned values embody the evils King describes. They are most committed to maintaining systems of domination, racism, sexism, class exploitation, and imperialism. They promote a perverse vision of freedom that makes it synonymous with materialism. They teach us to believe that domination is natural, that it is right for the strong to rule over the weak, the powerful over the powerless. What amazes me is that so many people do not embrace these values, and yet our collective rejection of them cannot be complete since they prevail in our daily lives. Don't I say it? In the last video, I was talking about this, how the image, think of the world as like divided on these very simple terms, the those who have and those who have not, where the image of these worlds meet is this thin representation of what is happening in the world, because these people's vision of the world must be divided, but ultimately, you know, be consisting of sort of like, in this two-dimensional sense, um the same vocabulary of things happening, right? um and so where these visions meet is on terms of like hierarchy, so that these people may be recognized as these people, as being very like worthy of their status and worthy of what they own, um or in terms of enforcement, what one does with this hierarchy must make sense to either side, right? um and in turn, this reproduces racism, sexism, class exploitation, imperialism, right? Because we're talking about this sort of like mythical portrait that's imprinted upon either side as this substitute for substantive learning about the world and how to create society. Um, because people refuse to participate. I don't know how else to say it, man. In my experience, people just don't participate, and when they come to it, it's very level 1, man. I'm thinking about this all the time. No, but like for real, like I should be able to substantiate what I'm saying, right? I should be the person teaching in that place, right? And it's hard, which is why I'm reading the freaking book, man. Like, I can say and I can say and I can prattle on, I can go in circles, but like, how do I get a sense for what people are losing me on? Like, how do I know, like, when to stop and ask? How do I know, like, if what I'm saying is coherent? How do I test someone on that? In a way that they can't, like, in a way where they want to try to give me an earnest answer. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. It's really tough, man. But I think it's gonna be worth it for everyone involved. So other people should too, right? I keep complaining to streamers that like, I feel lonely. That's what I tell one of these like little YouTuber people. It's like, oh man, I'm so fucking lonely. Of course, I don't say it like that. I'm like, where is it? Where is it at? Where is it happening? Where are the people talking? No. Where I no, I know. Just where are they talking about me? Where is it happening? Where are the communities? No, I don't want to talk to the porn heads. No, I don't want to talk to these people. I see you in like all these discords or whatever. Like, where is it happening? Where is it at? And it's like I think the hardest thing to like get across is like, okay, just stop imagining yourself as like this product like for the internet and start imagining what you're doing as like the substitute for like an active community. If you're able to keep all these people engaged and here and like doing things and like participating, try to imagine a space where many people are doing this, many people like you are doing this, and people exchange roles in this way, between being like these like organizing like identifiable people and a participant in like some sort of group activity. Like that's what I'm saying is like I know you fuckers talk. You're a fucking leech, like like so you just cut it off because it's like once you get them to recognize that and respond to that, well, there's your answer, buddy. I tried. You can't tell me I didn't fucking cut you out of nothing, buddy. Like literally, I didn't do a single shisty fucking thing. Okay, I offered my presence and you refused it, so I left. It takes a while. It can take a while. But I mean, like that's the thing is what are we being ultimately deprived of here is like a serious community space online where like people can like actually fucking synthesize ideas and like get an idea about like what the truth of the world is. Um I don't like the format of like having all these closed rooms or like these collaborations like or any of this participation like being like completely exclusive, like excluded out of there or whatever, because it gives people the wrong idea about like what goes down in a place, and like it just separates people like entirely. Like yeah, it's fucking dumb. I hate it. I hate what that whole institution does. I hate the performing and all that bullshit. Like it's just some division of labor nonsense that like keeps people from like talking to each other. But yeah. These days I'm compelled to consider what forces keep us from moving forward, from having that revolution of values that would enable us to live differently. King taught us to understand that if we are to have peace on earth, that our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. Long before the word multiculturalism became fashionable, he encouraged us to develop a world perspective. Yet, what we are witnessing today in our everyday life is not an eagerness on the part of neighbors and strangers to develop a world perspective, but a return to narrow nationalism, isolationisms, and xenophobia. These shifts are usually explained in new right and neoconservative terms as attempts to bring order to the chaos, to return to an idealized past. The notion of family evoked in these discussions, one that's historically brought forth progressive double movements in American history, is coupled with a notion of security that suggests that we are always most safe with people of our same group, race, class, religion, and so on. It doesn't work, man. Like, can't get a democratic consensus on anything that benefits people if it's not something close to their lives. And so these special interest groups like sit on these fucking concepts like fat fucks and make it impossible for people to like emotionally and like psychically like be there because they're already so compartmentalized. No matter how many statistics on domestic violence, homicide, rape, and child abuse indicate that, in fact, the idealized patriarchal family is not a safe space, that those of us who experience any form of assault are more likely to be victimized by those who are like us rather than by some mysterious strange outsiders, these conservative myths persist. It is apparent that one of the primary reasons we have not experienced a revolution of values is that a culture of domination necessarily promotes addiction to lying and denial. I'm thinking about it. You know what I was thinking about is like, what if, after reading all this stuff, we went back to the fucking classics? We go back, we do Lemke again. We do Cartwright again. We just run through it and just like see what we can get out of it this time. I want to do Lemke again because I want Lemke on YouTube. I did that one on Twitch, and it was good. It was good, but there was also a lot happening at the time. It kind of fell into the Harambe stream of ideas, and so I kept a lot of concepts from Lemke to myself because I felt like I deserved them. But I think if I read Lemke today, it would be more like this, where I'm like talking and engaging with the audience. When I read that book, man, it was like that shit was like a rainbow to me, dude. Like I was going cover to cover with it. Like it just made so much fucking sense to me. Like the implications of everything she was saying. And so I want to go back. I want to do it again because it's a really good book and it's been a couple of years since I've read it. And it's just so funny that Bell Hooks is mentioning that people have like an addiction to like lying and what else? Denial. Because that's actually just like that's exactly what Lemke's saying, you know, it's like, but she has like the science of it. She actually explains like how it is an addiction. And so it's like, man, it's real. This is real. Okay? You'll know why it's real if you go onto my YouTube channel right now, go to the playlist button, find FRT, Dopamine Nation, and watch those videos. Obviously, you can't do that right now in 2026. As of right now, you can't do that, but in the future, it'll be there. So, right at you. That lying takes the presumably innocent form of many white people and even some black folks suggesting that racism does not exist anymore, that conditions of social equality are solidly in place that would enable any black person who works hard to achieve economic self-sufficiency. Well, that's very much not true today. I don't think anyone feels self-sufficient today. Forget about the fact that capitalism requires the existence of a mass underclass of surplus labor. Lying takes the form of mass media, creating the myth that feminist movement has completely transformed society, so much so that the politics of patriarchal power have been inverted, and that men, particularly white men, just like emasculated black men, have become the victims of dominating women. So it goes, all men, especially black men, must pull together, as in the Clarence Thomas hearings, to support and reaffirm patriarchal domination. Clarence Thomas? What's that? What happened? What happened? Was it abortion? Thomas has contended that the Constitution does not address abortion, but it addresses privacy. Thomas has contended that the Constitution does not address abortion in Planned Parenthood versus v. Casey. The court reaffirmed Roe v. Wade. Thomas and Justice Byron White joined the dissenting opinions of Rehnquist and Scalia. Rehnquist wrote, "We believe Roe was wrongly decided, and that it can and should be overruled consistently with our traditional approach to stare decisis in constitutional cases." Oh, fuck. Not like this. Stare decisis is the foundational legal doctrine meaning to stand by things decided, which obligates courts to follow precedent to establish in prior cases. And Scalia wrote that the right to obtain an abortion is not a liberty protected by the Constitution of the United States. And Stenberg versus Carhart. Oh, that's it? Okay, that's it. Talking about abortion. 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 And they focused on a black guy. They focused on a black guy in the 90s? Talk about woke. To support and reaffirm patriarchal domination. Add to this the widely held assumptions that blacks, other minorities, and white women are taking jobs from white men, and that people are poor and unemployed because they want to be. And it becomes most evident that part of our contemporary crisis is created by a lack of meaningful access to the truth. That is to say, individuals are not just presented untruths, but are told them. No, okay, here we go. That is to say, individuals are not just presented untruths, but are told them in a manner that enables most effective communication. When this collective cultural consumption of and attachment to misinformation is coupled with layers of lying individuals, when this collective cultural consumption of an attachment to misinformation is coupled with the layers of lying individuals do in their personal lives. They do layers with the layers of lying individuals do in their personal lives. They do this? They do this in real life? In their personal lives. They do layers in their personal lives through a collective cultural consumption of misinformation, which creates this attachment that informs these layers, that makes this person a liar. They do their role in society by becoming this liar. Our capacity to face reality, then, is severely diminished, as is our will to intervene and change unjust circumstances. I can see why people say that bell hooks is challenging, because that makes a lot of fucking sense to me. One sec.
What up, my quirk chunguses? When this collective cultural consumption of and attachment to misinformation is coupled with the layers of lying individuals do in their personal lives, our capacity to face reality is severely diminished, as is our will to intervene and change unjust circumstances. I drop lyrical dishes on the floor, plates shatter. I get to the matter. Who, what, why, when. Soon as he dropped that line, I just roll up from behind and ask you what your interests are, who you be with, things that make you smile, what numbers to dial. You gonna be here for a while. When this collective cultural consumption of and attachment to misinformation is coupled with the layers of lying individuals do in their personal lives. Because it be real. I am me. I be myself. 1 sec. I'm gonna get some flavored water. I know I'm. No, I won't do this to you. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of meaning here, isn't there? Because you have to think of the word. You can't think of the word as like, a single, like recursive branch of information, if that makes sense. You can't think of this statement having dualistic properties, right? Because it means what it says, but it is non-dualistic, right? Because it does not have monistic properties, because the word is being reused. It's not given new meaning. It's just that the word holds its meaning and is used twice as it exists once as an instance in the statement, right? So like, it's very ingenuitive is what I would call it. A lot of ingenuity baked into that little sentence there, because it speaks to social processes, right, that demand so much explanation because of how unobvious they are. Layers is used very interestingly here as a oh my god, as the what is it called in the pejorative, when it's being used here as like a nominative noun, right? But also as like a pejorative. It's being used as like, I think that's correct. It's being used as like the direct object and like a nominative noun at the same time. Which is very strange, and the only reason you know that is because do now has dual meaning, right? But it's not dual meaning because it means do, it's just being used twice. So like, you see like what's going on here? Like, it, on the surface, I can hear someone that I believe in saying this is lazy, right? But I know what it means, and I think it's lazy to not try to understand this, but we're deprived of the opportunity to explore the greater implications of what this person recognizes as like two discrete sort of abstractions represented here in this social process that they're picking up on. So I think it should be 2 sentences. I think it should be like 3 or 4 sentences, because each one of those sentences can be elaborated on between each statement. It could be used, maybe reworked as like an opener, even like an opening paragraph, and have those be explored through a thesis, you know, built up through the dissection of what's happening here. But it doesn't. I don't think I can safely say that culture is ready for this sort of lyrical mastery going on here. Um
Culture's not ready for it. Please just consider narrowing the scope and maybe write this in a notebook that you keep around or something. And if you ever want to think about something, just pull out your notebook. Just think about what you wrote down. Right? That's constructive. I do that, and it helps me say a lot. But I understand what it means. It's just, maybe I wouldn't say I don't know what it means. That's I think the first big point here is you know what that means. You can understand what that means. You can do a bit of work to understand what that means. But I want to know that you know the work that I'm doing. So I want it to be more accurate to what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be more precise between the two of us. Because I see it. I see it. But it needs... I don't know that you know what you're saying. I can't say that you can go out there and lead. I had a little bit of broccoli and naan bread from the leftovers. It was really good. If we examine critically the traditional role of the university in the pursuit of truth and the sharing of knowledge and information, it is painfully clear that biases that uphold and maintain white supremacy, imperialism, sexism, and racism have distorted education. So that it is no longer about the practice of freedom. The call for a recognition of cultural diversity, a rethinking of ways of knowing, a deconstruction of old epistemologies, and the concomitant. You can have it speak? Hold on. What? Wait, do that again. I love robot voice. Wait, how do I... Hold on. Hold on. I need you to hear this. This is awesome. You don't even have to Google the thing. Where is it? This is ocular, I think. No. Speak.
Concomitant.
That's so awesome. All right. Concomitant. What does that mean? What that means? A thing that is conjoined or concurrent. Conjoined or concurrent. A thing that is conjoined or concurrent with another. An accompaniment, an accessory, an associated thing, quality, or circumstance. Person who accompanies another. Mathematics, a form invariably connected with a given form or system of forms. Concomitant. How much can you speak? How much does this thing speak?
If we examine critically the traditional role of the university in the pursuit of truth and the sharing of knowledge and information, it is painfully clear that biases that uphold and maintain white supremacy, imperialism, sexism, and racism have distorted education so that it is no longer about the practice of freedom. The call for a recognition of cultural diversity, a rethinking of ways of knowing, a deconstruction of old epistemologies, and the concomitant demand that there be a trans.
Of course. Formation in our classrooms and how we teach and what we teach has been a necessary revolution, one that seeks to restore life to a corrupt and dying academy. When everyone first began, sorry, I'm itchy. 1 sec. It's not my nuts. It's actually my gooch. Ugh. So I didn't touch my genitals. All right. Fuck. When everyone first began to speak about cultural diversity, it was exciting. For those of us on the margins, people of color, folks from working class backgrounds, gays and lesbians, and so on, who had always felt ambivalent about our presence in institutions where knowledge was shared in ways that that reinscribed colonialism. Reinscribed. That's a $10 word right there. Colonialism and domination. It was thrilling to think that the vision of justice and democracy that was at the very heart of civil rights movement, the very heart of civil rights movement would be realized in the academy. At last, there was the possibility of a learning community, a place where difference could be acknowledged, where we would finally understand, accept, and affirm that our ways of knowing are forged in history and relations of power. Finally, we were all going to break through collective academic denial and acknowledge that the education most of us had received and were giving was not and is never politically neutral. Hey. Though it was evident that change would not be immediate, there was tremendous hope that this process we had set in motion would lead to a fulfillment of the dream of education as the practice of freedom. Learn forever. Be a teacher. Not a burger flipper. I'm saying that like, fast food jobs wouldn't stay along. I feel like, okay, I think like jobs that are like selling AstroTurf or like cars, those kinds of jobs would go before burger flipping jobs, because at least you gotta cook the fucking thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that we're talking about people given the opportunity to, enrich themselves and others, in a way that feels like the practice of freedom. Sorry, I'm prairie dogging right now. 1 sec. I'm sorry. Pooped really good. Many of our colleagues. What are we talking about? Learning as liberatory action. We were all so excited. Very narrative chapter. No, don't do this. God damn it, there was something else in there. Oh, man. Better values. God damn it. Oh, right. It's like her take on, commodity fetishism. But it's not commodity fetishism. It's bell hooks. Oh, I know what I want. Sorry, I have to post an image. One sec. I wish, I won't. Okay. Many of our what was it? Um, I'm like lost in this idea of like her sort of like post-structuralist like critique of things. Cause I'm still like a fucking baby, and I still feel like what do you call it? Like, to me, like a structuralist critique and a post-structuralist critique kind of like blend together like lexically when I read them. Um to me, it's all abstractions and record keeping. And so to speak of one and the other, it's difficult to like understand where the authority lies. Um or where the author intends for the authority to lie, like in the critique or in like like the what is it, the what do you call it, like the encapsulation of the concepts like themselves, like I like I look for like operational words and categories, basically, and just like go like, okay, that's what you're talking about right now, and then I just kind of hope that they explain it at some point. Because to me, I view this stuff like very much as like, well, one thing could be as good as bad as any other thing until you say racism, like, you know, like at the very core of it. Um, just there's a lot of things. I'm always adding these things. And I like that. I like when we add things. Many of our colleagues were initially reluctant participants in this change. Oh, right. Many folks found that they tried to respect cultural diversity. That as they tried to respect cultural diversity, they had to confront the limitations of their training and knowledge, as well as a possible loss of authority. Indeed, exposing certain truths and biases in the classroom often created chaos and confusion. The idea that the classroom should always be a safe, harmonious place was challenged. It's hard for individuals to fully grasp the idea that recognition of difference might also require of us a willingness to see the classroom change, to allow for shifts in relations between students. A lot of people panicked. At such a small scale, people are already panicking. Let yourself grow, white boy. What they saw happening was not the sorry, white woman. I think we're at that point where I can say either, right? What they saw happening was not the comforting melting pot of idea of cultural diversity, the rainbow coalition where we would all be grouped together in our difference, but everyone wearing the same "Have a nice day" smile. This was the stuff of colonizing fantasy, a perversion of the progressive vision of cultural diversity. Okay, that's way fucking different than what I had in mind. Um, they're doing the neoliberal deconstruction thing that all the kids love doing these days. The one where people start hurting each other. Critiquing this longing in a recent interview, critical multiculturalism and democratic schooling, in the International Journal of Education Reform, Peter McLaren asserted, wait,
Diversity that somehow constitutes itself as a harmonious ensemble of benign cultural spheres is a conservative and liberal model of multiculturalism that, in my mind, deserves to be jettisoned because, when we try to make culture an undisturbed space of harmony and agreement where social relations exist within cultural furrows of uninterrupted accords, we subscribe to a furrow of social amnesia in which we forget that all knowledge is forged in histories that are played out in the field of social antagonisms.
isn't that the truth? Um, people. Sorry, your mommy isn't here. sorry I don't have a fucking baby rattle to shake in your face, but you're just gonna have to be Chinese for about 10 minutes to figure out how to fucking listen to me. Okay? I think people are like, it's that mind body link, right? Because in Chinese religion, right, people come into this world as this chaotic disorganization of energy. I learned about this recently. In Chinese religion, people come into this world as this chaotic disorganization of energy, right? They fall into patterns, and people watching them observe that they can pull energy out of them, and this energy being pulled from them, this emotional energy becomes patterns of behavior, emotional patterns, right? That become patterns of behavior. Now, at a very early age, people can start to recognize these patterns as who they are, as their personality, right? And so the danger lies in the danger in it later in life lies in someone else observing these patterns and essentially controlling you by drawing energy out of you while you're unaware of this. And so the goal, right, should be to become aware of these patterns yourself and to understand how to control these energies, right? And so what Confucius advocated for was ritualism. That's what this other scholar suggests. He's like, I really like how Confucius advocates for this like ritualism. When you're reading the Analects, right? Confucius's big work, he says some just like fucking random shit. He's like, put your elbows up when you talk, when you walk into a room, adjust your mat before you sit down, put your fucking pinky up. The thought, and this is something I was so lucky to randomly hit this when I was like 16, maybe 15, 16, 17, right? I was so lucky to randomly hit this one. But if you do something, even if it has no reason for being done, it will change you because you're doing it. That was just like the energy, I guess, at the time. Just doing shit for no reason just to see what would happen. But yeah, like I hit that one pretty early and I used it too. But why do you think I drank water? I love fruit juice. Fruit juice, Kool-Aid, fucking Welch's, whatever it was. Believe me, I was pouring myself a little glass of juice or drinking nothing at all when I was at home. Oh, if there was fruit soda in the fridge, it was over. Okay, those processed sugars were going straight into me. And so like maybe in like 2010, 2011, I was like, you know, water. I look up at the board, I look up at the screen. Water is good. Water is good. That's kind of funny. What if I just started drinking water and saying it was good? Okay. And I was like, and then you could see the devil in my eyes. I was like, I can approach God. I can become I can become my own creator. I can like that's like the atheist in me talking. That's the agnostic in me talking. Like, by 16 I was decidedly agnostic, an agnostic theist though, because clearly there is a God, but it's hard to decide which God is right. Um and so I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Nothing's sacred to me. I'm gonna do this shit. Which is funny because I was actually performing a ritual. I was considering my experience to be very sacred actually, and I respected people a lot. I was a very respectful person, and I deeply engaged with compassion with anyone I encountered, right? because I wanted to not be shallow because I saw how that hurt people, right? So ironically, I thought I was being edgy, but I was really just being a great guy. And so, I, uh, and so I would tell myself like, "Oh, water tastes good," and I'd take a sip. And I'd be like, "Oh, water tastes good," oh, take a sip. And eventually, I just wanted to be like fucking different, because like everyone was like, "Oh, water doesn't taste like anything." I'm like, "Water tastes like something." And I said it one time, and I was like, "I'm gonna fucking commit. I'm gonna be that person that knows what water tastes like," and it gained a taste. I swear it. I did not think about the taste of water. I thought about the absence of my pleasure every time I was not drinking like processed sugar drinks, right? So I told myself water has a taste and it tastes good. And water started tasting good. I started with ice water because everyone fucking knows ice water tastes better than regular water. But like really like it's you change your behavior and your behavior changes your mind, because I wasn't just drinking water. I was not drinking soda, right? So like in my head, like I drink water, no dopamine. In fact, my neural like receptors are being antagonized by this lack of enjoyment from like drinking water, right? um but I tell myself, like cognitively, I engage with what I'm doing, in this way that's sort of just regimented, that's sort of just like repetition, repetition, repetition. This rote practice, like Confucius would say, this rote practice would become a pattern in my life, and I could live through the control of these patterns. And I didn't know that. I just wanted to be fucking different, okay? Which is not the best thing, but I lucked into it, you know? And so yeah, my dopamine receptors were activating when I was drinking water, and it gave it a taste. It affected my senses. It affected like um my memory, because now like I think about like how water tastes. I don't just go like, "What the fuck do you mean water tastes like something?" I know how water tastes. And so this idea of like a mind body link, this idea that like your personality is intrinsic to you, that is used to control you through patterns, um is very dangerous, but also not the easiest thing to like teach people to like move away from, because it's like, what are you going to do when you go to a Christian community and everyone's a really devout Christian, and you're going to be like, "Okay, find Jesus within yourself," and they're going to be like, I do it every weekend." Like, what are you gonna do? Oh, actually, Confucius and Chinese religion, they're gonna look at you like you need to get the fuck out. Like, that's not happening. And you need these people around because they're a part of the democracy, right? And so it's like, what you want to build like a perimeter around them. You know what people are gonna do? They're just gonna juice it. They're gonna be like, "All right, guys, let's fuck as much as possible and have as many babies as possible and accept everything in our life and every like division and inequality in our life and all this behavior, because I already figured out how to make it not obvious that you're killing yourself or whatever." Like, like what's happening now. Um, and that's not great, because these people's power. So to circumvent like anything that like justifies like power through like wisdom or like awareness or like ability is based on like this preferential selection, based on like these biases, right? And so it's like it it manifests every time, like racism, sexism, whatever it is. It's there not because like it's this whole like, it's not like you're draping a curtain over the world and it's like everyone's fucking racist the same way. It's like everyone has these little like relationships with each other that contribute to like creating these communities that become like constituencies, or like on the other side of things, like create like candidates for like these like positions of power, right? Like there are just little tweaks and little adjustments of like how like people view the world and how they view their own life, like based on these biases. extremely intricate, and it's not like this like big sweeping thing, which is why it demands so much engagement and ultimately inspection, right? Like, you know, it's performing these things to become rote patterns in your life in order to change like your life for the better is something that I still rejected. I wasn't reading books for no reason. I'm still not reading books for no reason. You know, I'm not doing homework for no reason because I already know, like, well, for a couple reasons. I wasn't doing homework for no reason because, like, you know, I would fall asleep. I wasn't telling myself, oh, homework is fun. I was starting to do homework and I'm like, holy shit, I'm like narcoleptic. What the fuck is going on? Um, and that's like, I would have had to stop playing video games, but video games were all of my social participation. That was like every account that I used to like prove that I was like these people's friends and like into the same thing and like that we should hang out and things like that. Like, you know, it's so complicated, dude. Um and like if you can't discuss these things openly, you can't even have some crazy ass go out there and be like, I'm gonna fucking do it, I'm gonna change everything about my life, I'm gonna go sober because I do feel things when I'm sober. I keep saying I drink to feel. Well, yeah, actually I feel things all the time, you know. That's a good way to go about it. You're not gonna see people doing that until you talk about deconstructing this like mind body link, and you're gonna keep seeing like these like conflicts in academics and in academia and manifesting in the academy, like and it's going to become injustice. Like it's already showing that it becomes injustice. It becomes this like neoliberal thing because what do people learn? They learn to do the bare minimum that they need to pass. They're compartmentalized. They're actually stupid. And they're just shown up by the few people who luck into this lifestyle where they don't compartmentalize. Usually it's because they have like adult guidance or like a lot of money or whatever the fuck it is. So it's tough, man. You got to be engaged. Sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. I don't want to. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark. We're actually doing fine. I don't want these videos to be too long. Like, I know I'm standing up a lot and talking. I don't want them to be too long because I do want people to like engage with what's happening on the page. Many professors lack strategies to deal with antagonisms in the classroom and still do. When this fear joined with the refusal to change that characterized the stance of an old guard, it created a space for a disempowered collective backlash. Jesus. Predominantly white male. All of a sudden, professors who had taken issues of multiculturalism and cultural diversity seriously were backtracking, expressing doubts, casting votes in directions that would restore biased traditions or prohibit changes in faculty and curricula that were to bring diversity of representation and perspective. Joining forces with the old guard, previously open professors condoned tactics used by senior colleagues to dissuade junior faculty members from making paradigm shifts that would lead to change. Ostracization, belittlement, and so on, that's not academics, that's bullshit. In one of my Toni Morrison seminars, as we went, who's Toni Morrison? She has a society. The Toni Morrison Society, in collaboration with the Neil Cochran House Museum in Austin, Texas, will be played. Can you tell me what it is? American Literature Association, established as an official member of the Coalition of American Author Societies that comprise the American Literature Association. Its founding. Oh. They're writers. Write or die. Um. In one of my Toni Morrison seminars, as we went around our circle, voicing critical reflections on Morrison's language, a sort of classically white, blondish J. Crew co-ed shared that one of her other English professors, an older white man whose name none of us wanted her to mention, confided that he was so pleased to find a student still interested in reading literature, words, the language of text, and not that race and gender stuff. Somewhat amused by the assumption he had made about her, she was disturbed by his conviction that conventional ways of critically approaching a novel could not coexist in classrooms that also offered new perspectives. That's the compartmentalization. I then shared with the class my experience of being at a Halloween party. A new white male colleague with whom I was chatting for the first time went on a tirade at the mere mention of my Toni Morrison seminar, emphasizing that Song of Solomon was a weak rewrite of Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. Passionately, full of disgust for Morrison, he, being a Hemingway scholar, seemed to be sharing the often heard concern that black women writers thinkers are just poor imitations of great white men. Not wanting at that moment to launch into unlearning colonialism, divesting of racism and sexism 101, I opted for the strategy taught to me by that in denial of institutionalized patriarchy self-help book, Women Who Love Too Much. What? I just said, oh! Later, I assured him that I would read For Whom the Bell Tolls again to see if I would make the same connection. Both these seemingly trivial... Is that a pickup book? Women Who Love Too Much. What is that supposed to mean? What the fuck? Get the fuck away from me. Having conniptions. Alright. Both these seemingly trivial incidents reveal how deeply seated is the fear that any decentering of Western civilizations of the white male canon is really an act of cultural genocide. No, what are you talking? I'm freaked out now. What the fuck? I have this This is related to the first time I got sexually assaulted. Okay, I heard the dog, but she disappeared. It was a psychology grad. It's enough said. Apparently everyone just reads these strange books and does fucked up things to each other. I don't know, it just left a really bad impression on me. Yeah, it just sounds like a couple of people who don't know like where their dick is. Like, how do I explain this? I had it in my head, but it's just way funnier to say where their dick is. No, like, so like, if it is a weak rewrite of Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls, like, why does the content, like, I want to ask, then why does the content even like seem like similar in the first place? Like, do you think she just like read the book and like copied verbatim like the structure of like the story, or like what does that mean? Like, did they look at the same, like, you know, slice of reality that you're just not capable of seeing, and you know, come to the same conclusions with one being worded one way and one being worded the other way? Like, what are you trying to say about that? You know, like, there's too much secrecy that exists even in educated circles because of this compartmentalized learning That's why I feel like I have any strengths at all, is because that's all I've been deconstructing while I'm being assaulted constantly. Um, my resistance is my continuity, if that makes any sense. Um, and if it does, it better not mean that there should be more struggle. Like, that's just the thing about it, is she's explaining here, like, the, there's obviously dysfunction in our society that lies with this lack of continuity in society. And what I'm saying is introducing struggle and like war and, you know, sending people into the military is not like a substitute for teaching people, like, in a way that allows them to unify this information such that they can understand that, like, these patterns that exist between different works are derived from, like, I don't know, some process, you know, demystify the secret society, you know, make life livable for people. Otherwise it's just gonna be like this every day. Fucking boring. Oh, oh, oh. And my little girl, make sure that if anyone says that they like something that you like, that you say they figured you out or something. Well, it's just another. Oh, well, that's a friend I didn't make. That's a friend I didn't make. That's a friend I didn't make. Fucking insanity. Ridiculousness. Discussing book. Sorry, my friend posted something. Discussing books with dudes on Grindr is going awesome so far. There's a dude telling me about a sort of black Israelite Hotep kind of book about how melanin is the source of ancient Egyptian serpentine spiritual power that can cause like elemental transcendence or something. I'm sitting my white ass down and listening. Isn't that just Avatar: The Last Airbender? I'm crying. I'm fucking crying. Right. Some folks think that everyone who supports cultural diversity wants to replace one dictatorship of knowing with another, changing one set of ways of thinking for another. This is perhaps the gravest misperception of cultural diversity. Even though there are those overly zealous among people or among us who hope to replace one set of absolutes with another, simply changing content, this perspective with another. Holy fuck, it's one of these. Even though there are those overly zealous among us who hope to replace one set of absolutes with another, simply changing content, this perspective does not accurately represent progressive visions of the way commitment to cultural diversity can constructively transform the academy. The haves and have-nots have been reproduced. You have to change, you have to deconstruct those hierarchies and render their usefulness in an egalitarian way. In all cultural revolutions, there are periods of chaos and confusion, times when grave mistakes are made. If we fear mistakes, doing things wrongly, constantly evaluating ourselves, we will never make the academy a culturally diverse place where scholars and the curricula address every dimension of that difference. It's sort of like you're observing, you're judging yourself in the past constantly. I think is maybe one of the weakest ways to learn. Um, you can't really second guess yourself. If you like, if you've ever had to heal from like a particularly like shaking incident, like shadow people, like, you know, what is it, like abuse, fucking isolation, like, you know, institutional injustice or institutionalized injustice, like, you ever have to deal with the police or anything? This is just, I'm just talking from personal experience. Like, like you change because you want to advocate for yourself, right? And you change by changing what you know and changing what you do. But in doing so, you adopt this critical point of view that becomes this interruption, this constant interruption in your life, of you readjusting, and you start to feel yourself become less creative. You start to feel yourself becoming more stifled, maybe more repetitive, maybe less nuanced, because you're constantly affirming or, you know, penalizing yourself in this little mental scorecard that you're keeping over, did I think about that the right way? Did I do this the right way? Was that normal? Was that a normal thing I did? Was that something I did? Is that a normal way to think about this? Or, oh, that's a normal way to think about this. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I should do that again. Oh, I hope I do that again. Oh man, I did the thing, right? The hardest, like, final step when you're hitting that stride where you are saying, I like this. I'm doing this right. I'm doing the right thing. You have to be able to solidify it. You have to be able to, like, kind of perform these mental gymnastics. And it is like a truly difficult task that requires so many tools and so much, like, mental focus that, like, you have to perform maybe what is one of the most essential functions, which is believing that what you're about to do is correct. You know, a lot of people will, like, be like, well, that's just something white guys do because they think they fucking run the place. And maybe it's true on some level. But the fact of the matter is if you want to be natural, you want to solidify what you've learned and what you've been doing. You're performing these rote patterns, sure, but you're doing it expecting the next thing for you to do to be the correct thing. And you can just keep doing this. Just remember what you do, however you do. Write it down. You know, record yourself. Think about what you're doing. But assume that the next thing that you're going to do is the right thing. Give yourself time for pauses. Give yourself moments of recollection and recovery, right? But ultimately, keep doing things believing that you're doing the right thing. As someone with anxiety who developed anxiety after severe social isolation, after this whole fucked up incident started, if you've been following it, it's been one of the hardest things to do. Like, it's really just, I couldn't imagine having to teach this to someone who hasn't been doing it like their whole lives, but it is vital. It is vital to survival. And it's vital to learning. That's the thing, is I think, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think there are people out there who, like, underperform in, like, an academic context because they're like extremely anxious people, and I get along with them really well, or historically I have. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, but you have to be able to do these things. And so I can understand, like where the faculty's coming from when it's like, we don't want people, like, adjusting themselves all the time, because it's like they're coming at it from this, like, tight mind body link. They're coming at it from this compartmentalized learning, and they're like, you know, it's like, if you've been in a history class and you didn't grow up being a white male or whatever it is, and all of a sudden, like, history class isn't about anything Eurocentric, you would feel like you had to like learn a second language. You would feel like you had to think about all of these events um as like something foreign to you that has no consequences that matter in any way or manifest in any way in your day-to-day life. Because I know how white boys work. They think Ivan the Terrible, or like Joseph Stalin is like them or something. And that's called being connected to history. That's like seeing yourself in the actions of these people. And like um it is sort of like this colonial thing that you can look at the image of history and feel that way about it. If what if you flipped it? What if we learned about Spanish colonial history and it was about instating la sistema de castas, or it was about Fidel Castro, or Che Guevara or something like that, right? And we're celebrating these guys, and we're like, socialism and passion and execution is like the coolest fucking thing ever, and La Sistema de Castas is so fucking cool because you can have a fucking Mexican wife and be a white guy, or the other way around, you can be a brown guy and have a white wife, and it's so fucking cool because your kids will be benefiting from it or something the entire time. And like you would feel disconnected from that, right? Like that's sort of like that Mamian sort of like colonizer and the colonized sort of like disconnection that's happening. And Bell Hooks is kind of like elaborating, like kind of, yeah, like elaborating on it, like by trying to explain that there is like this issue with like this mind body link, and how we kind of, and here's where I want to rescribe, is that what she says? Reinscribe these meanings that are so inherent to like how we feel about like, or that are so close to how we feel about this inherent connection between our mind and body, into like the world that we create, how it is disruptive. And it is kind of disruptive on either side. So if you're trying to make these places diverse, you have to do away with like these old values. But it's difficult to just say like, go out with the old, in with the new, because you've suddenly disconnected people from their personal history, and they have to question why they've done anything at all, and that can be extremely like psychically taxing on someone. And the only reason I can honestly say that I ever like engaged in it seriously, without just like doing whatever animalistic things I could do to like stay near people, it's because I just don't fuck with people. I don't fuck with people, and I don't fuck with changing for people. So like, I didn't just go out and like find random people to like become friends with and try to sell myself into their fucking friends group by being like this like incredibly insensitive person, because I always want these things to be genuine, right? And that's why I have an advantage in academia. That's why I've always had an advantage in academia, is because life is real for me. And so like, yeah, like it would be great if other people could be like that, and it would be really constructive, I think, for making learning like this liberatory action. And you don't have to compartmentalize. You can just like, sometimes it's just like cool to like see other people win, I guess, or something, or like, I don't know, maybe there's complicated conversations about this that can happen after the fact, so that you can even enter these conversations. Because at some point, we live in the old world. If you're gonna adapt like these beliefs of like the old world to like one that's more liberated than the last, you're gonna have these entrances into new ideas that seem strange and archaic. And it's because they are, but you are who you are at this moment. And I'm talking to the adults out there. Kids fucking change all the time. Who cares? Adults out there, like, this entryway that you take into reality is like, it's gonna be strange every time. And you might think some insensitive shit, but like, maybe just think it and just feel fine about that. Just feel fine about keeping it to yourself, as long as you can answer some questions, and like be there, be in the moment. That's what I'm talking about, being in the moment. We want everyone in the moment because it helps us reciprocate emotionally. Because if I come to you and you haven't seen me for a day, I got to teach you about how my day felt, don't I? But yeah, very fascinating section. But it's not so simple. Like, I can just say this, right? But the work is not so simple. You have to encounter a lot of people, first of all. Like, where the fuck am I gonna find enough people to talk about these things and not like constantly be hurt by like these negative enforcement tools that exist to like kick me out of places? How am I gonna get through this without being shot or like, you know, concussed by someone who like doesn't want to understand me, you know? How am I going to cope with the fact that I can only go online for these things? How am I going to find people online when these like like these structures of like algorithmic content ultimately divide me from people like who are out there, you know? Like, I really have to like know what I'm looking for if I'm not going to rely on like the recommendations. And beyond that, like, I got to figure out where the fuck the people are to communicate to, right? Because there's like not even a guarantee like anyone's going to respond. Like, I've written emails to like video game journalists before. They never fucking respond. They're like the worst about responding, but I know about like fairness and justice through like video games. So like how am I going to talk to anyone about this? That's painful. That's difficult. And that's apprehension. That's the kind of thing that keeps your body still. You kind of have to like push through it. I hesitate to use the word fight, but that's just how I was raised. Yeah, it's not simple, but there's so much of the book to read. We'll start here. Some folks think that everyone who supports cultural diversity wants to replace. Oh, right. One dictatorship of knowing with another, changing one set of thinking for another. This is perhaps the gravest misperception of cultural diversity. Even though there are those overly zealous among us who hope to replace one set of absolutes with another, simply changing content, this perspective does not accurately represent progressive visions of the way commitment to cultural diversity can constructively transform the academy. In all cultural revolutions, there are periods of chaos and confusion, times when grave mistakes are made. If we fear mistakes, doing things wrongly, constantly evaluating ourselves, we will never make the academy a culturally diverse place where scholars and the curricula address every dimension of that difference. As backlash swells, as budgets are cut, because like if you want to address everything, then everyone has to have like a running memory, a running continuity of what's been discussed so far. You can't just like wait for your part and like listen to that. Like, you actually have to listen to everything. Everyone needs this running continuity of everything to have these serious conversations and to synthesize ideas from that point of view. As backlash swells, as budgets are cut, as jobs become even more scarce, many of the few progressive interventions that are made to change the academy to create an open climate for cultural diversity are in danger of being undermined or eliminated. Jan. These threats should not be ignored, nor should our collective commitment to cultural diversity change because we have not yet devised and implemented perfect strategies for them. To create a culturally diverse academy, we must commit ourselves fully. Learning from other movements for social change, from civil rights and feminist liberation efforts, we must accept the protracted nature of our struggle and be willing to remain both patient and vigilant. To commit ourselves to the work of transforming the academy so that it will be a place where cultural diversity forms every aspect of our learning, we must embrace struggle and sacrifice. We cannot be easily discouraged. We cannot despair when there is conflict. Our solidarity must be affirmed by shared belief in a spirit of intellectual openness that celebrates diversity, welcomes dissent, and rejoices in collective dedication to truth. This right here celebrates diversity, welcomes dissent, and rejoices in collective dedication to truth. Let's get a screenshot on that one, eh? Oh man, I cannot wait to be back on fucking Windows sometimes, man. Linux is cool. I like Linux, but it's not doing what I need it to do. I need it to curb my habits. But it's not doing that adequately anymore. So, you know, if I'm gonna do anything about my life, I think it's gonna involve socializing online like I do, because I don't want to get fucking assaulted or whatever. And so, like, what's this book called? Teaching to Transgress. There's a subtitle, is there not? I'm gonna go online, right? I'm gonna play VR chat. My computer can handle VR, but because I'm playing on Linux and there's no first party support, the emulation software is like this huge like technological bottleneck that doesn't work for me anymore. I have a link cable, so I might as well fucking use it, right? Like so yeah, when the dual NIC comes in, education as the practice of freedom. So when the dual NIC comes in tomorrow, I'm probably gonna take a day off as a practice, as the practice. Okay. To configure my proxy and to set up my firewall rules and stuff. My dad wants me to use like his old firewall, but he's not a security guy, so he doesn't understand that like if I'm using old hardware, exploitations already exist. And it's more susceptible. This guy's fucking cool. He's now referring to thought as the self-created one. It says the Ankh is a polarity device. The Ankh is a polarity device. Thoth as the self-created one, and says the Ankh is a polarity device. Oh. What the fuck? The Ankh is a polarity device. The Ankh. I had to chime in on that one. Thanks, Jan. The Ankh is a polarity device. Quick. Where are we going? Oh yeah, I posted the thing. Drawing strength from the life and work of Martin Luther King Jr., I am often reminded of his profound inner struggle when he felt called by his religious beliefs to oppose the war in Vietnam. Fearful of alienating conservative bourgeois supporters and of alienating the black church, King meditated on a passage from Romans chapter 12, verse 2, which reminded him of the necessity of dissent, challenge, and change. Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your minds. What do I keep saying, buddy? Be ye transformed by the renewal of your minds. It has to stop. The process has to stop one of these days. I don't even know what to call it. I call it the process because I got processed a few times while I was going through it. It's not, I don't like it, man. I don't like it. I don't want to owe any of my success to any of the struggles that I've ever been through because I am the person who made the right choices. It is within me, and I am completely capable outside of this paradigm of prisons and these authorities based on what? Based on this narrow upholding of the law in which so many cases aren't even heard. People are just sent straight to like these mental health institutions on hold, taking no account for their own experiences. I was abused and thrown into the behavioral health center system, injected forcefully, tied to beds, lifted off my feet, and otherwise abused, broken. Like for what? For what, dude? For what? For what, dude? It hasn't left me. You didn't change me. It's all been me. You could have just fucking told me, dude. But like, oh, put up the wall. Now the system's necessary. All of us in the academy and the cult. Please watch this as a series. Go to the playlist. Go to my channel. Go to the playlist. Start from number 1, buddy. All of us in the academy and in the culture as a whole are called to renew our minds if we are to transform educational institutions and society so that the way we live, teach, and work can reflect our joy in cultural diversity, our passion for justice, and our love for freedom. Isn't that true? Don't need to struggle to change people for the better. We need to be more social. We need to socialize better. We need to socialize more. Be more understanding. Stop putting a price tag on your time because it's just destroying everything. All right. Anyways, thank you.